So a lot of these like fit people that you think are judging you are actually would love to help you, right? Because they were once there too. The first thing I did that was wrong is I didn't know how to select a program, right? That'd be the first thing is program selection. So if you're new to the gym, you need to decide what program you do. Now, that's where you can go wrong. So just be careful. I do think in the beginning, less is more. Not only less frequent training, but there's so many things that go into what program you should pick. So the number one thing. What's up, everybody? Coach Stefan here. Welcome to the Everyday Pursuit podcast. I got Coach Bryce on here with us again. Say what's up.
What's going on, everybody?
Last time Bryce was on here, we talked pretty heavily about protein sources, but I thought that we would dial it back a little bit and talk to you newer gym goers. We do work with a lot of people that are decently experienced in the gym, but I would say we also work with a ton of people that have literally never stepped foot in the gym, up to people that have kind of done some stuff at some point in their life, right? So basically, still what we would consider a gym newbie. If you guys don't know what we do, if this is your first time listening, we are a fitness company that coaches veterans, first responders, and medical professionals all over the United States. It's kind of our everyday hero community, but I would also say, just to include some other people in our program, we have all types of people, guys, business owners, moms, dads, but we do primarily focus on the everyday hero community. And we design programs specific to the individual's life. So basically, their schedule, their goals, their physical capabilities, as well as doing the nutrition aspect. So basically, we create custom programs, both exercise and nutrition for our clients, and give them an accountability coach that is there every step of the way. So hopefully that gives you some context of what we're going to talk about, because we do talk about our real life experience, both Bryce and I being in person, and online coaching. And then also just what we're doing with our clients, because we've had hundreds and hundreds of transformations over the last couple of years. And so we've seen it all. But we'll dive in. So if you're listening to this and you're newer in the gym, don't worry. I know it can be kind of intimidating. And one of our coaches, Riley, she's our only female coach. We actually just recorded a podcast not that long ago talking to females specifically on how to be a confident woman in the gym. This is more dual gender, but I am talking a lot to the males. If you're a female, you could still listen to this. This still applies to you, but we do work with a lot of men. And me being a guy, I remember what it was like when I was new in the gym, and I'm sure Bryce knows. And Bryce works with primarily males, right? Most of your clients.
Yeah, I actually have a decent split. I would say like 25%
Okay.
female.
So
But
yeah,
yeah,
that was still like the majority of them. And so we're just going to go through basically three things we see. We'll keep it short. But I know you guys want some tangible information. So don't go anywhere, because the last thing you want to do is not listen to information when you're new and then be frustrated and give up because you have a goal, right? Like you started going to the gym for some reason. But I do want to start it off with a little story, because story time is kind of fun, right? Way, way, way long ago, yes, I was new in the gym, just like everybody else. Now, I have been lifting for about 17 years, pretty darn consistent, definitely about 12, extremely consistent. So I've been around the block. And most of that actually was training people. I started training in about 2011, 12. And I started lifting in what, like 2004 or five? It's been a long time. Uh,
you're
I'm
old.
old. I'm old. But I started training in high school, and I'm gonna go to probably probably like my senior year, because that's when I went to a commercial gym. Okay. The first couple years I lifted, I was in high school. I took a weight training class because I was an athlete. But when I started going to a commercial gym, whole new thing, right? Now the equipment I was kind of used to, but some of it was really new. The intimidation factor was real though. There was like some big dudes in there. I definitely felt a lot less confident. You know, when you're in high school, you're lifting with your friends. You're like, hey, take this period with me. So the whole thing is a lot different. And I think I just kind of like messed around and like lift things. And, you know, they give you a program, and I think I just like talk to my friends. But when I was going to the gym on my own in a commercial gym, it was totally, totally different. And I think one of the vivid memories I have was just like short. I'm giving you some visualization. There was this like short, stocky Hispanic dude. Every time I went to the gym, this dude was there. It doesn't, and I went at different times, different days. And he's like, I remember he say like he's there 2 or 3 times a day, like yoked, looked like he just came out of prison. Okay. This dude was terrifying, super nice guy. So I can never judge a book by its cover. Super nice guy. And he saw that I would like work out hard. He'd always give me advice. And that was kind of my first like pseudo gym mentor. But I remember I didn't have a program. In fact, I did the same thing I did for 4 years in high school, 4 sets of 8. I'm doing like cleans. And if you've never been to a commercial gym, now people are doing cleans and stuff kind of with CrossFit. But like back then, 2005 or 2008, 2009, nope, nobody was really doing cleans. Okay. So he just saw me doing this athletic training. And I feel like he was kind of like a mentor to me. But I would say at that time, I still was like pretty lost in the gym. I don't know what your like first memory would be of you like going to a commercial gym, bro.
Yeah, I can't say commercial because for the first 2 years of me actually training fairly like consistently was in college. And it was because I showed up to the baseball team with guys 2, 3 years older than
Yeah.
me, already grown ass men, and I'm over here like 170 pounds at 6 foot, and I was just a little string bean. And I remember like kind of similar to you, I found that one guy on our team that was just jacked out of his mind,
Yes.
and I'm like, I'm just gonna hang out with this guy. And very similar. He just took me through it, and luckily we had an all-you-can-eat buffet at
Awesome.
school. That's how we ate, and so like I went from like 170, 175 up to like 205 in a single
Dang.
year. A lot of that was fat. I mean, he didn't talk to me about nutrition, but other than like
Eat
just
and
eat your
lift.
protein. But
Yeah.
yeah, other than that, it was an easy transition for me to go to a commercial gym because it was 2 years of like training with
Mm.
this guy, and so a little bit more comfortable for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So now that I don't know, I just like to always tell stories. I feel like you guys can get a good visualization of like where I started. And I will tell you right now, like did have, I guess what you could call an upper hand only because I was an athlete my whole life. So no, I wasn't, I'm so know some fitness coaches are like, oh, I was this chubby kid and I, was picked on and I had this comeback and that's awesome. I didn't really have that. I definitely wasn't like this genetic freak though. I was just like an average kid that played sports. That's it. I didn't have the physique at all that I had right now. It doesn't mean I have bad genetics, but I don't think I had like sick genetics. So I had to work really, really hard. But I will say that the reason I tell you this is because the one thing that I think most people go wrong, and this is where I went wrong, and Bryce got lucky. He had somebody that kind of knew what he was doing. Oh, by the way, if you think that the biggest dude in the gym is intimidating, I mean, look what he said. I didn't even know he was going to say that. So I had this jacked, scary kind of looking dude that helped me out, like just kind of took me under his wing. And Bryce had another guy that was in better shape and bigger, take him under his wing. So a lot of these like fit people that you think are judging you are actually would love to help you, right? Because they were once
They
there
get
too.
they get excited
Yeah,
about it.
they love it.
They pour hours, hundreds and thousands of hours into the gym to look that way. And so when people are like, "How do you do that?" It's a
It is
compliment most of the time.
dude, 100.
And so they get
Yeah.
excited.
Not only is it a compliment, when you like something, when you're passionate about it, you want to help others. Why do you think I coach? I mean, that's literally it. I'm like, this is awesome. I've done this with my life. Let me help you. Obviously, not everybody's going to do it for a profession, but you get my drift. So the first thing I did that was wrong is I didn't know how to select a program, right? That'd be the first thing is program selection. So if you're new to the gym, you need to decide what program you do. Now, this is a rabbit hole topic and I'm going to try to keep it really simple. You need to ask yourself what your goal is and I'm going to just help you out. I'm going to help you through this. So just as I'm asking you these questions, if you're driving, be careful, but I want you to just think. Don't close your eyes if you're driving but like think about what you want to get out of the gym. For most people, it's super multifaceted. It's not just one thing by any means. They're like, okay, I want to get abs and I want to bigger arms. And okay, remember, like, listen to what I'm saying. It's very physique focused, right? Which is most people like, I want to get abs, I want to get arms. So most people, it's usually physique first. But I also want to be healthy, but I also want to be kind of strong. And for most people, specifically men, they have a lot of goals. Like I would say most men we train are pretty multi-dimensional. Now we do train a lot of first responders, so we get probably half that go, I just want to look good naked. Cool. That's fine. That's most people's goal. If we're being really transparent here, Most people just want to look good in a bathing suit in their underwear, naked, whatever. If their performance increases, awesome. But I would say that it's the other way around, or it's not the other way around. And here's some deductive reasoning for you. If you had the body you wanted, but your performance really didn't increase, because it's going to, like, right? Especially newbie gains, especially in the beginning. Like, if it didn't increase that much, but you looked way better, okay, imagine that. How happy would you be? Okay, got it. Now pretend that your performance increased, right? This different thing. Your performance increased. You were faster, stronger, more explosive, had better endurance, but your physique didn't really change that much. You kind of looked pretty much the same. Which one would you pick, A or B? Probably most of you would say A, and we know that. And so because you know that physique is your, I'm just going to just make the assumption, if I'm wrong, come at me, that physique is your primary thing you're worried about. Now, even for me, I'll be honest with you. I know that physique trumps performance because if you look at my training, I do a lot of like functional bodybuilding and stuff like that. It is focused on physique. Do I have my performance increase? Absolutely. But I know that. So number one, you need to understand, what is my goal? What are the things I actually really want to get out of the gym? Not what everybody says. Oh, I just want to be healthier. Okay. Let's be honest. Like, do you want to be healthier? Because if you want to be healthier, you should just become an endurance athlete with a little bit of strength, right? Because you'll have a really good heart and you'll live longer. And you should do yoga all the time because you'll be super flexible. And you're like, I don't want to do that. Okay. Because you want to look like a jacked animal. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if you kind of had those goals at first too.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, the dude was, there was a lot of performance based whenever it was this first like year or so with baseball, and I was like, all right, I just have to be able to keep up with these people. And but then I was like, this is kind of nice. I can see my body
Yep.
changing. And then my when I went from my community college over to my university, my coach was like, we're not going to be doing any of your bodybuilder workouts when we're here. And I was just like, oh, whatever, man. It's like, I hear you, but like, that's all I want to do.
Yep.
So, I'm right there
Yeah.
with you.
And so that's a number one thing you need to do. Now, you might say, okay, I got it, dude. All right, I'm going to lift to look good. That's what I want to do anyways. Well, what program do I do? There's not a one size fits all, but I'll give you some tangible information. Usually, you probably should start with a basic hypertrophy program. You can get a coach. We'd love to help you, but you can also just Google hypertrophy programs and you're going to go down a rabbit hole. It's hard to pick a wrong one in the beginning. Like the first 3 years of lifting, it really is. Like if you do anything within the like 3 to 5 sets of 8 to 12 reps, that's like big range hypertrophy, you're probably okay. Most of the like PDFs that you'll find online, maybe there's like a bodybuilding.com article or something like that. Like you're probably okay. I don't think you're going to pick a wrong one. There's some things that can happen. There are some times where you like overuse something and you get some injuries, whatever. I'm honestly not trying to scare you. That's kind of where I started. Actually, I did the worst thing possible. I after I was getting help from that guy, I'd go to GNC and find another guy let me buy all these supplements. And like he kind of would help me a little bit. And I would go and get a magazine there and follow the workouts in the magazine. I don't know if you ever did that, Bryce, but
No, I don't. I'm glad I never followed
yeah.
that one.
So I
Because those,
basically
those,
I basically bought these
yeah.
bodybuilding magazines and did the workouts. And I remember there was one specifically, I don't even know the guy. He looked like Ronnie Coleman, big jacked black dude. Like, and I had this magazine forever, and it had like a whole 12-week split in it. And I would just like run through that. And it was, now looking back on it, like I remember it was way too high volume for
I
me
was
in the
gonna say
beginning. It was like five
40 sets per
yeah, it was like
workout.
5 to 6 sets, like 90 minutes in the gym, primarily 1 to 2 muscle groups. And it was like a mass growing, like mass and strength. And that's what I wanted when I was smaller. That's where you can go wrong. So just be careful. I do think the beginning, less is more for sure. Like only, not only less frequent training for most people, but there's so many things that go into what program you should pick. So the number one thing is intensity. You need to understand that like when I'm going to the gym, what intensity do I want to train with? And I know that sounds weird, but I mean, people that do CrossFit, they like training at a super high intensity. And the intensity will probably actually dictate like everything else, volume, set, reps. Because you could do 10 sets of 10 German volume training, which is, don't go do that, by the way. which is very, very, very high volume, but you could go in there and challenge yourself a 3 out of 10, right? Like,
Yeah.
so how you attack the workout is a big portion of it. But for most new people, 3 days a week is probably good, maybe four. I actually just posted a reel that I got attacked online saying you should train 6 or 7 days a week. And the only reason I said that, um, I gave you guys some context if you ever see some of my stuff, and I talk about training a lot, is habit building, right? And the mental benefit. You don't need to train like every day. I like moving my body. I feel good when I move my body. So just because you're starting, also don't think that like, oh, I can, oh, you said 3 days a week, I can't do anymore. Training is a very broad term. That doesn't mean go in and destroy your body with weight training or strength training. You could walk and do mobility. You could go on a jog. I mean, I think most people would be physically capable to do something almost every day, but you have to decide what's realistic for you. So when picking a program, most of you are going to start on a basic hypertrophy program. I do think you should do cardio at some capacity, whether that's walking on an incline, jogging, elliptical, just because it is good for your heart and your health. But that's probably where you should start. What do you think, Bryce?
Most definitely. My biggest take is, especially when I'm working with my clients, if they are newer and they're like, I get this all the time. I'm like, all right, cool. How many days a week do you want to train? They're like 5 to 6, and I'm like, cool. What does the last 3 months look like? I haven't trained anything for the last 3 years. I'm like, let's start with
Yeah,
three. You know, it's like, one, you're gonna get beat up. Two, you get a lot of stimulus from those three if you haven't been doing anything, and then the habit building aspect. So 3 days a week of training in the gym is a really, really good start. As you become more and more advanced, your body, if you want to keep building and building and building, you just need to do a little bit more volume. So adding in a fourth, maybe a fifth day is what you're going to need. Of course, you want to make sure that recovery is in place, but that's for intermediate advanced people. But if you're beginning, 3 to 4 days a week is good. But like you said, doing something every single day is something I also preach with people, in the sense of like,
mm,
we sit, most people sit at a desk all day
I looked up
long.
doing.
And so I need to literally like get up every single day and go do
Yeah,
something, or I have the tendency to get 2 to 3,000 steps a day, which is really
yeah, me too,
horrible.
bro.
And so like just being very conscious of like, I'm not going to the gym, but I can go for a 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
things like
If
that.
you're a first responder, maybe you have a more active lifestyle, but we also train some cops and they're like, bro, literally, like, I don't do it.
They work at
Yeah,
their
I don't do
desk.
anything.
Yeah,
And I
for sure.
tell you, COVID ruined us all. I'm with you on this. Like, if you're listening to this, we are
Mhm.
friends on this. Bro, I don't you think I'm a fitness coach? Oh, you must be blah, blah. Look, I'm not just this. First of all, I got a family, I got a baby, I got a teenager, I got dogs and cats business. I work at home, I train at home, I do in the gym. I train, but like other than that, I'm not that active. There's days, same thing with you. I barely get in any steps. I know, come at me. We're always preaching 10,000 steps, but it can be hard, which is why I think designated time where you do physical activity is important. Because if you're like, I'll just try to get my steps in today, yeah, like it usually doesn't happen. Okay. Um, so before you come on me, and the guy that actually came at me with it. It was a YouTube comment, which is funny. He's like, yeah, and the longer you've been training, once you build up the muscle, you need to do less to create stimulus. I'm like, that's actually literally scientifically the opposite of the truth. But okay, because as it's adaptations, right? You break the muscle down to get your body to adapt. So as you have been training longer, like for me, a long time, I can't just do 3 sets of 10 reps. I mean, I can. It's not that I won't do anything, but if I want to like break my muscle down, I have to do a new stimulus, right? Which means usually more volume or more strength. My body's like, yeah, we've done this before. Like, can you give me something new?
Yeah.
So
Sometimes it is less volume, but only if it's paired up with increasing volume in the future as
sure,
well.
yeah, it's not.
Just different
Yeah, you can't
stimulus,
just keep
right?
doing like high volume training phase after phase after phase after phase, which is another episode to go into. I don't want to get too
Not for the
yeah, too
newbie.
sciencey, but
Just
for
stick to
you,
your 3 to
okay,
4
so
sets.
now I know what to do. Basic hypertrophy, 3 days a week, probably 3 to 12 sets. And if you're going to do 3 days a week, you probably or 3 to 12 sets. I'm sorry, 3 sets, 12 reps. If you're going to do 3 days a week, probably full body is good. You could do push pull
Mhm.
legs. There's a lot of stuff. I'm a big fan of full body training for 3 days a week. Is my preferred. But it doesn't mean you do one set of each muscle group, maybe like 2 or 3 sets. And here's something you might not like, and Bryce might disagree. If you're gonna train 3 days a week, you better spend 90 minutes in the gym. Like, I I'm a big believer in that, and maybe not week 1, that's not what I'm saying, but, like, you should if you're like, "I'm a 3-day a week person," that should be what you wanna strive towards. Because I do think you can make long-term really good progress, but you can't just be like, "I wanna be in there for 45 minutes 3 days a week." Like, come on, bro. Like, really, that's all the time you have in the whole day? You gotta make a little more time. If you have this super physical job and you're, like, baling hay or moving boxes all day, maybe it's a little bit different, but for most of you sedentary individuals, you need time to, like, warm up, do a dynamic warm up, lift, do some stretching, like, that takes time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not totally against it. It's just if the time, sometimes the time isn't there. And so the thing that I always tell my clients is like, at a bare minimum, we have to be showing up three hours a
Yeah,
week. So it's 3 1 hour
yep,
sessions. That's like this is a gold standard. If you're not doing this, you're gonna see it, you'll see some progress, but it's gonna be slow.
100%.
And so, like, yeah, 3 1.5 hour sessions. I'm like, yeah, you're at 4 to 5 hours a week. That's a good stimulus for your
Yeah.
body for
And
sure.
here's the thing, and I don't know, I mean, I'm sure it's talked about. I don't listen to every fitness podcast, but I have listened to a lot, and I follow fitness coaches because this is my industry. And something that kills me a little bit, and I have to ride the line because we do preach this first thing, but bear with me, is people that go, "Oh no, you only need 3 days a week. Like you can make such good progress." You can. I'm not saying you can't. We have clients that do it. The problem with having those kind of like expectations is you will get there slower. And you want to know what kills people's fitness goal more than anything is they give up. They stop.
No
And do you know
momentum.
why they give up? Because they don't see results faster. I do hundreds and hundreds of sales calls. I've done over 1,000 sales calls the last couple of years, easily. And I've asked people, well, what motivates you? Guess what? Everybody's first answer is like 90% results. That's what they say. Oh, well, results. I'm like, well, no, no, duh. But it's a good answer, right? That's what motivates them. They want to see results. Well, I, how are you going to see results if you're just like taking a little chisel and chipping away, bro? You got to get the sledgehammer out. All right. And I would actually say, it's not that you should go 110% from the get go, because that's also bad. That all or nothing. Like I'm gonna day one, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do everything. Don't do that. But you also should have some realistic expectations of like this is going to become a lifestyle. All right. So number two, nutritional basics. Now, with our clients, full transparency, we do a lot of macro tracking. That's kind of like industry standard just across most coaching, but it is customized to the individual. That's how we coach them. Not everybody feels like macros work well for them, but it is science, it's numbers, and it usually works really well because it's numbers and numbers don't really lie. And everybody that tracks macros and they're consistent, they get results like everybody. So that's, I think, figuring out what your macros are, your baseline. And if you don't know what macros are, they're your proteins, carbs, and fats that comprise your calories. Okay. And knowing basically how much food and what type of food you should be consuming is really important. But here's some nutritional basics. Basically, you need to start probably eating more protein for most individuals that we work with. This is over, between us 20, 25 years of coaching experience. So, you know, understanding that you're probably under eating on your protein. So just consuming more protein can help. You don't even have to eliminate anything at first, unless you're doing really eating fast food every day. But eating more protein. And then I would say just like find the biggest things that and you know them, the big things that you're doing that are like super unhealthy. And if you're somebody like, I actually eat like really healthy, I want you to peel back one more layer and really start dissecting that. Because I've talked to a lot of clients that go, I eat really healthy, and I look at their stuff and it's like snack bar, protein bar, muffin, kale, and they're like, well, the snack bar is pretty healthy, isn't it? The protein bar is pretty healthy. I'm like, not really. Like, where are your whole foods? Where's like rice, beans, meat, eggs? Like, if most of your diet doesn't look like that, like whole foods, high protein, that's probably where I would start. It doesn't mean you can't do the macro thing, but like I mean, you should know how much energy to consume, but I know it can be cumbersome starting macros like right from the get go. And I hear that a lot in messaging that people are confused, but I'd love to hear your take on it, Bryce.
Yeah. One of the things that I always tell people is The food that you eat will determine the amount of food that you eat.
Yeah.
So, like, when you eat healthy foods and you're eating a very high protein diet, you're gonna be more full. And I actually spoke about this on the last podcast we did
Protein powder.
about protein sources. When you have them from a whole food versus getting them from protein shakes, protein bars, you're gonna be way more full. So in this scenario, it's a higher quality, and most scenarios, it's a higher quality food source. And so whenever you're having, just like, you can hit your protein goal eating 5 protein bars a day,
Uh,
but you're gonna be very, very, like, probably gonna be gassy, stomach's
sounds
gonna be upset, and you'll probably be hungry. And your cravings will probably be there because guess what? Protein bars, although they're helpful, they have some sugars in them. They have that taste that makes you want to still like eat more and more candy,
yeah.
sweets, things like that. And so, like, it's just, and you're not going to be full. Versus if you sit down and you have a pound of ground beef, a pound of steak, you're not going to be as hungry at
No,
the end of that
not
meal.
even. Yeah, exactly. So stick to whole foods, okay? Not the grocery store. Like eating whole foods, basically, unprocessed, unpackaged. And I know some grains have processed stuff, but I promise you, like, can you go do paleo? Can you cut out, just eat like fruits and meats and stuff? Yeah. But I also think that trying not to do anything super, super, super restrictive is probably beneficial. We see it a lot. People want to
Oh,
do keto or paleo, and those things aren't necessarily wrong. They're just extreme. And it depends on what your diet looks like. If you're like, I basically eat only meats, nuts, fruits, and vegetables, cool. You're already doing really, really, really well. But if your diet looks kind of trashy, don't try to do everything crazy. Just like substitute your breakfast you're having, because your breakfast, you're probably only getting 20 grams of protein if you're lucky. And that's not a lot for most men. They're like, oh, I got in 25 grams of protein. I'm like, what about lunch? Oh, I got in 40. And I was like, good. You're a third of the way. What? Yeah. You still got like 120 grams of protein to eat. Oh, I ate a steak. There's 70. You're still low. That's usually how it works. So, um, and I
mhm.
won't go too much into that. So, nutritional basics, figure that out, start implementing things, because now, guess what? You have basically the two biggest pieces of the puzzle. You have a program, you're following, you're being consistent, you're going to the gym, you're trying stuff. Hopefully, the program that you follow, you know how to do the movements, you're comfortable with them. If you don't, get a coach. That's what we're here for. Because on our app, we walk you through, there's videos that walk you through how to do it. You can ask your coach, you can film yourself doing the exercise with form, give it to your coach for feedback. Like, it's almost like they're there in person. Just, less expensive and more convenient. So you can use that. But if you don't have that, watch you. I mean, there's for YouTube, guys. Like, you can figure it out. It's not the most convenient way. I'm not even going to tell you to track your stuff. Literally, if you're a beginner, I mean, if you want to, it's always better. I do not get me wrong. But like,
Yep.
newbie gains are a real thing. If you ever heard that, if you just go to the gym, don't do it stupidly. But if you go to the gym and you just lift weight and you push yourself and you start cleaning up your diet, you'll be like, wow, I'm seeing results. Because the first like year to 2 years, newbie gains is super real. Your body will be in a super response state. You'll
But
what's up?
but it all comes down to doing it for first 1 to 2
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So it all comes down to like doing it consistent. So cool. You got the program, you got the nutrition. I would strongly argue that most people know how to exercise at least a little bit in the gym. The community that we're with, I know there's people that know nothing, but I used to be an athlete, or yeah, I kind of gone to the gym. So most people kind of know. And guess what? There's machines and it only goes one way. Okay. So like, come on, you put the pin in, you feel what weight you could do, you do it. Okay. You don't have to do barbells, dumbbells. So most people know how to train. If not, you're like, I could go use a machine. I promise. So that we got that. Um, I already told you the sets and reps to do and focus on a couple muscle groups. So you have that. The nutrition. Most people know how to eat healthy. They just choose not to. It's a very conscious thing. And if you're like, I don't really know, no, you're using that as an excuse. Like, your mom probably taught you, and we just told you. So you have that. The biggest thing is the third component is like how to consistently implement these. And, you might say, like, okay, well, I'm new. And so I'm struggling with motivation. You said I need to see results, but I don't know if I'm going to see results. Well, this is the hardest thing is like execution, even when you don't see it working, right? Like that really is the thing. And I almost use this, I mean, this analogy I feel like helps me. You know, if you were to go to work, right, you're get a new job and they're like, "Hey, you don't get a paycheck for the first 30 days because you're like on probation or whatever, but we're going to pay you for your training." Well, you're still making money. You don't see it, you haven't got paid yet, but like you're building that up, but you don't show to work and put in less effort. In fact, the first 30 days you'd put in more effort, right? You're like, "I want these people to think good things about me." And you're building it up knowing that you're going to get a check. And that's how most people work, right? You get paid hourly or salary. Like you haven't actually got paid for the work yet. And so this delayed gratification, it's hard in 2024, but that's kind of what you need to go into it. And a lot of people feel like they need a form of accountability. In fact, I just had a call with somebody in my mastermind, and he's like, "Hey, I feel like the main thing I need is accountability." Yeah, I know. I hear that all the time. So what does accountability look like? Well, for us, and this, to give you guys some perspective, for us, it's, daily access to your coach whenever you want. You can ask them questions about nutrition, training, supplements, all that. Weekly check-ins where you have to fill out a form and you have to assess yourself, and the coach gives you feedback and assess you, and a community to hold you accountable. And we can see when you're doing your workouts or not doing them. We can see what you said about them and how hard they are. We can see the nutrition you're eating or not eating. That's a lot of accountability. And if you don't have that, it can be more challenging. This isn't saying you have to get a coach to be successful, but there are a lot of moving components, which is, obviously I do this for a living. I'm a huge advocate of coaching because of the moving components. And you have to understand that coaching is not forever. Um, but if that's off, if you're like, "Hey, I know that you could tell me everything to do, but that's not an option for me." I would say the best way to hold yourself accountable would be probably creating some type of like checklist. Or there are some other apps. I mean, we have our own app, but there are some other apps like, what do you use? Stronger? That's one, right?
Yeah, I used Strong
Or Strong.
before starting to use our
Yeah.
app. But
So
yeah,
there's some.
I had I had like 5 years worth of
Yeah.
data in there.
There's some,
It's a long time.
I'm telling you this, guys, because I just want to help you. Obviously, getting a coach that can do that is just like super direct, but there's other things out there. I like apps, but here's my biggest qualm. I don't want you on your phone in the gym unless you're doing a structured program. And the reason I say that is I've actually talked to clients that had apps. They downloaded like 3, 4, 5 apps, and they're like, "Well, I don't know. It tells me what to do, and it's not customizing me, and blah blah blah." And you can get them for $1 or free. But the problem is like that does take out the accountability portion. You know how many people download apps and they don't do them? And if they do them, they don't do them consistently. I would also argue the vast majority of them. So I think human interaction and having a human hold yourself accountable is the highest form and the best chance. I mean, I have accountability in every area of my life. I talk about that a lot on all these episodes because I don't need accountability with my fitness and nutrition. I have that area on lock, but there's other areas of my life that I feel like I need more accountability in: my business, my faith, my marriage, my finances. Like there's other things that I feel like I would want help in. Um, so that's accountability would be number one.
Yeah.
And then I would say the other option, I said, creating a list. I know this sounds super elementary, but one of my, well, I guess he's not my mentor, but somebody that was a huge inspiration to me is the CEO of First Form, Andy Frisella. If you ever heard of 75 Hard, he's that guy. But he's really the CEO of a supplement company, First Form, very successful supplement company. And he created something called the Power List, which is basically a list where you just write out 5 critical tasks of the day. And if once you do them, you cross them off, right? One, two, three, four, five. And if you completed all of them, you write a W for when you won the day. And if you didn't, you write an L. And that's a really super easy way. I didn't come up with that, but I used that for years to track my fitness. Now, not everything I was doing in the gym, but like, did I get my workout in? Did I make good nutritional decisions? And I would write it in like, get workout in, hit protein goal and calorie goal. And that was a lot of pressure because I don't want to lose. I don't know about you, I'm competitive. And that was like the easiest form of accountability. It is self accountability. You have to be pretty disciplined to do it. I think that's why a lot of people would rather just have external accountability. That's a high form of internal, but the journal is also external, right? Like having that power list or whatever you want to call it is a form of external because you have to face yourself. A lot of times when we don't execute, it's easy because we take it in our mind and we know, and then we're like, "Oh, shove it down." But when you have to stare at a journal and be like, "Oh, big L," like that doesn't feel good. I don't know if you've ever used any tactics like that when you first started.
I did the exact same
Okay.
thing.
Powerless?
And you don't see it right now, but over here, I have a calendar for the entire year. It shows every single month, every single day, and it has the exact same thing that you were just talking about. There are W's and L's on there, and so you can see all the stacked up wins, all the stacked up losses, and the goal is by the end of the year, it's as green as possible. But you put that the big red L in there, it's like it doesn't feel
Dude,
too good.
I will say what a simplistic elementary form of genius. I mean, honestly, dude, I wish I'd have came up with
Mhm.
that. And it's so easy because like that's a visual thing and it doesn't feel good to look and see all red. And when you have to write that you lost, it sucks. Like it's like, I mean, it
Yeah.
should suck, right? Like I lost the day. And that might seem extreme. If this offends you, this probably isn't even the right podcast for you. But it's like I didn't complete. I told myself I was going to do these things and I didn't execute. And I will say that like the ultimate goal, even for all of our clients we train right now, is I want you to get there. I want you to graduate our program and get to a point where you have your own power list, even if it's in your mind. Hey, I did these things, I accomplished. I will say that people don't do very good in their mind though. I 100% like people do really well visually and tracking things and numbers and keeping a journal. And that's why when you go to clean your house, you're like, all right, Saturday to-do list. And you rip off the scratch piece of paper. Or I got my wife this like to-do list with a dog on it because she loves dogs. But I digress. I got her and she just every week she's like, all my to-do stuff. She has a phone, she has a computer, but it like feels good crossing it off,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And she could have it all in her
100.
mind, but what do we do? Oh, I forgot that, or I forgot that. And I say, when you forget it, it's easy to just erase and suppress. But when it's on a piece of paper and it's staring at you, like I have a to-do list over there, you can't see. And I'm and
Yeah, I've got
I've
mine
been
right here
yeah,
as
I've been
well.
procrastinating one item on there and I'm like, "Ugh, it keeps doing it." I would have totally forgot about that. So again, you could use the basic things um, to hold yourself accountable because it doesn't matter if you have the perfect program. It doesn't. It doesn't matter if you're like hitting your macros some days. Consistency always beats hard work, and I talked about this with Riley, kind of similar podcast, but you could put in 125% effort every 3 months and you wouldn't have a lot, right? Like, and we see that a lot. What is that like 400 or 500% over the whole year? And people do, they're like, all right, I'm starting back up. I'm going to lose this weight. And they do it all. They do the diet pill and the exercise and the gym clothes and the protein shake and everything. And they go balls to the walls and just crush it. And it's too much effort. It's 125% effort, right? It's just all the way. And they think they're helping themselves, but they're hurting themselves because the next month there's 5% effort. And the next month there's 40%. And the next month there's 15%. And it's just a numbers game. It's literally a numbers game. Because if they would have just put in 75% effort every month, they would have had way more. They just added up, right? So,
That's
holding yourself accountable is challenging. It takes a special person, but there's three actionable things you guys can do if you're new in the gym. And if after listening to this you're like, I'm still lost, you should be, because I'm not directing you to one specific thing because number one, I don't know who you are listening to this. And I don't like it when coaches are like, oh, go do this program and go do this thing. It is kind of open and it should be based on you, like your body, the equipment you have access to, where your gym is, how much time. And it takes a while. And if you're developing that on your own, it's absolutely possible. I didn't have a coach and I ended up developing a program probably 4 years into lifting that was really good. And I got phenomenal results and my nutrition. But I went to the gym 5 to 6 days a week for 4 years straight without missing any time, literally, except if I was fever, throwing up sick. And it took me trial and error, week after week, little tweaks, week
that's it.
after week for 4 years till I was like, I understand how this works now. I'm not even kidding. And I was getting educated, like getting certifications, all
Yeah,
that stuff.
I was gonna
Dude, so
say.
much trial and error. Um,
Trial and error, and then when you get a degree in it, I mean, it'll start clicking, but, like, if you're not getting a degree and you're not super consistent, it took him 4 years, took me 4 years as
yeah,
well. Could take you 10, and I mean, if you can push through for 10 years, all power to
yeah.
you, but
Well,
I don't think that's a good route to
sure. And
go.
like we said, I told you the biggest thing that I see for people, what do they say they want? What motivates them the most? Results. And I'm telling you, I see this time and time again. People put in a lot of effort, maybe even a 80% effort, which is really good. but they're kind of doing the wrong thing and they don't get results. And this isn't me trying to twist your arm or tell you to do coaching. It's just the reality. Like we train so many people, believe it or not, that actually go to the gym. Like we train a lot of people that come to us and go, I've been going to the gym. I go, for how long? A few years. Well, how many days a week do you go? 3 to 5, more like 4 to 5. You've been doing this for 2 years. Are you pretty consistent? Dude, I'm very consistent. How does your nutrition look? Wow, it looks okay. And it does. It's okay. It's like 5, 6 out of 10. It's like not terrible. It's not great. And they basically get no results. And they're at this plateau.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, that's frustrating. Like, imagine going to work for 2 years and like putting in a pretty good effort. And they're like, yeah, you don't get any promotion. You don't get any raise. You made no career advancement. And you're like, wow, I kind of hate this job now. So, that's a reality. And so the longer you've been training too, I mean, you're probably a little more safe in the beginning, but the longer you've been training, or if you're watching this and you're at a plateau or you feel like you're kind of a newbie again, you really should get on something that is structured, whether you do it on your own or you go this route. So, any last words of advice for the newbies?
No, I mean, just to summarize, I think it's one, focus on something that's more encompassing to be hypertrophy based with your training. So you can do some strength stuff, you can do some endurance stuff like muscular endurance, but definitely make sure you have some cardio. But 80% of your training is in the hypertrophy range if you want to see aesthetic results. If you have performance goals, it's a little bit more of a complicated answer than that.
Yeah.
But training, that's what I would say. In regards to the nutrition, you've probably heard this hundreds of times, and we're saying it again. Whole foods and high protein diet is the number one starting place. If you are not seeing results and you are doing those things, that's when macros,
Yeah.
tracking your everything is way more important because it's just an energy balance equation. And then consistency, finding something that is going to keep you accountable. It can be a coach, it can be an entire calendar with journals and to-do list, because I'm just a little OCD freak about that stuff. But if that's not you and you need somebody to hold you accountable, do that. The one little thing that I would add on top of that is when it comes down to your training, you have to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you're not enjoying it, you probably, let's be real, you probably won't enjoy it that much in the beginning. But over time, it needs to develop into something that you truly, truly enjoy doing. Because if you plan on doing this for life, you can't hate it every single day of your
No.
life. You have to have even like, for example, Ian, every single time that I see him in the gym, he's always like, I fucking hate training. I'm like, you like it enough to show up
Yeah.
though, and that's all that
Yeah.
matters.
Honestly,
So
I'll add one little thing to that. Um, we work with a lot of people that played some sports, right? I mean, I feel like, right, a lot of like ex athletes at some point, younger, whatever.
mhm.
And I remember when I was little, I was like excited for practice. I don't know about you, but I was excited. I'd be like, in high school, like, oh, I almost get to get off, like the bell's gonna ring and I get to go to practice. Why aren't we excited like that when we get to go train? It should be like that. When I was in the military, people thought I was weird. And I mean, when you're in the industry, it's a little more of a chore sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But when I was in the military, I would stare at the clock, waiting to go to the gym, bro, fired up. I'd play it in my head. Whatever you got to do, I'd eat at the perfect time, take my pre-workout. I'm like, let's go. It makes it fun. Like there's, healthy things. There's not a lot to do as adults. Like for fun, we like, hang out with our family. Some adults go drink with their friends. Besides that, like a lot of adults don't have like tons of hobbies. I mean, I know some do, but like for me, my hobby was the gym. So I looked forward to it. And I'm so glad I made it a hobby. It wasn't my only hobby, but it was a really good hobby of mine. And you usually enjoy your hobbies. So I think if you can make the gym fun or make it a hobby and make it your thing, like, are you avoidant in doing your hobby? If you like golfing, are you like, oh, I gotta pull my teeth to go on the golf course? Like, no, bro. You're like, let's go. I'll do the earliest tee time at this course. You're gonna pay if you're gonna drive the cart, right? Like the gym should be like that. It doesn't have to overconsume your life, but I think that's a big portion. So I appreciate you guys. If this episode was helpful, we do ask that you like, comment, subscribe, and share. I know that's a lot of things. So let me just tell you, like it, give us a rating if you feel like we're good, if this episode was helpful. I would appreciate if you subscribe because we come out with a new episode every single Monday. Um, and we want to get our message across to a lot of people because the industry of fitness, there's a lot, right? There's a lot of like people and fit people and whatever. But I would say that our approach is definitely maybe a little bit different because we work with a certain community. And this community that we work with of the everyday heroes and the first responders, I'm actually so blessed to be able to do it, but also there's a lot of diversity. Okay. We work with people that moms, dads, cops, firefighters, nurses, 40 years old, 50 years old, 18 years old, not a lot, but like 20 young. So every type of person you can think of with different fitness goals, we have in our program. Like we do have a pretty wide variety. And so we're trying to kind of attack this from like a general standpoint. But if you guys do have specific performance goals, or you're like, hey, this kind of applies to me, but like I'm trying to get in shape for a PT test, or I'm trying to pass this. Well, that's what you would need a coach for. Like no discussion. Like you can go find random stuff online. Don't go do that though, because you're on a time base, right? Like I have to join the academy this point. Don't do that to yourself. You don't just have unlimited time to go experiment. Like just get a coach, get on a program, get with somebody that knows what they're doing. And that's kind of the area that we specialize in. But like I said in the beginning, a lot of people come to us for aesthetics and to just look good. So if you guys do have any questions, you can hit us up on social media. On my Instagram is Stefan Coons underscore fit, and I'll drop it right here. Or you can go to our pursuit Instagram, which is pursuit underscore HP, or our website, which is thepursuithp.com. And you can fill out a form there to chat with myself, or maybe I'll throw Bryce on the phone. No, he doesn't usually do the calls, but he does a lot of the onboarding. And we'll just have a discussion to see if this is a good fit for you. There's my plug for today. So appreciate it, guys. I love you, and we'll talk to you next time.